Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Cell Phone Compliance. I work in IT. Some are surprised that I tended to shun cell phones for most of my career. I didn't get one until about 2013. A big part of the reason was that I knew that, working in IT, if I had one, my employer would expect me to be on call basically 24/7, with no additional pay or anything. There was, and still is, a social expectation that you answer your phone, or at least reply via text, no matter where you are or what you are doing. If and when you aren't quick on answering calls or messages, it's always a talking to the next day at the office, despite the fact that 99% of your job can be done remotely. It has always been this way for IT staff, and it won't ever change. So, early in my career, around 2005-ish, I worked at an SMB of around 50 people, help desk and network admin, working for an IT manager who had no real technical skills to speak of, but the manager was good with crystal reports. So they were the IT manager and I was the flunky. This person spent about 80% of their time micromanaging my time and making sure I wasn't idle for as much as 5 minutes of my day. At one point, a person in another department who was working late had some trivial nonsense problem with Microsoft Excel that absolutely 100% could have waited until the next morning to resolve, but was annoyed that the IT manager was beyond clueless to solve his issue at 7:45 PM. And the regular help desk guy didn't have a cell phone he could call for off-hour support, so he complained. He complained the next morning by storming into the IT office and berating us, the IT manager and I, about how unacceptable the situation was, and then sent a 5-page follow-up email CC'd to half the company, including the entire executive staff, about how intolerable it was that his dumb problem didn't get resolved in the late evening. So a couple of days later, I got pulled into a meeting with the IT manager and the HR lady. Reading the room, it felt like I was about to get fired or something, but it was far worse. They wanted me to get a cell phone. I politely declined, which they were prepared for, as they told me the company would pay for me to get a phone. I asked if I was going to get any kind of salary increase, if I was going to be expected to actually answer it. My original employment agreement didn't include any on-call stipulations. I was told there wasn't any money in the budget for that, which was a blatant lie. The CEO sent us the quarterly earnings every quarter. I said that I'd take a company-issued cell phone, and I'd even answer it after hours without demanding more pay, on one condition. I got to pick the phone and the carrier. They were delighted, agreed in writing, and were almost giddy as I got up and left the room. I found a Motorola Razr, at the time a new and very expensive phone, from a Japanese phone company that had the right kind of compatibility to work on the North American cell phone network, but retained a Japanese phone number and had an international roaming plan. I went out of my way to find the worst possible plan, and calling the phone would have incurred two-way international long-distance calling, plus the per minute international roaming fees and all that. And based on some quick math, it would have cost them over $5 per minute in total to call me. A day or two after the meeting with my boss and the HR lady, I requested the follow-up. I presented the phone and plan I had picked out. It was clear from the body language that they couldn't tell if I was kidding or not. The HR lady finally realized I was dead serious and asked why I picked something so expensive. I said with complete honesty, I find it almost offensive that you want me to be theoretically on call for an unlimited amount of time outside of the office, potentially disrupting literally everything I do outside of work hours, but weren't willing to offer me even 1 penny in compensation. Well, if someone wants to call me for support after hours, somebody, somewhere is going to pay for that call, one way or another. They thanked me, said they'd get back to me about it later. The topic of me getting a company cell phone was never brought up again. The last story is called Company Knows Best. This took place probably 20 or so years ago in the Midwestern US. At the time, my father had his cell phone plan with the V network. He chose that provider because he lived in a rural area, and at the time, that was the only mobile provider that worked for him. He researched this as best as his low-tech redneck mind could handle. This was the only viable option. My father has been in sales for most of his working life, specifically insurance sales. He is good at it. Make sure the client is taken care of the right way, the way he would want to be taken care of. He also is the kind of guy that doesn't care where you are on a company's organization chart. He'll tell you exactly how it is. If he's wrong, he'll admit it. But if he's right about something, he'll make extra sure you know about it. The bean counters at the insurance company he worked for decided that they would provide him with a business cell phone, but with a different provider than the V company. He called his boss and said, "This probably isn't a good idea. It will be in roaming where I live, and it will cost a ton in roaming charges. The company knows best. Use this new phone." "Sure thing, boss man." So he gets the new phone, uses it for exactly 1 month's billing cycle, uses it for all calls. Business calls, personal calls, random calls to make a reservation at a restaurant. For everything, he used the company phone, instead of the company paying around $50 or whatever it was for his phone plan. Because of roaming in his area, as he said it would, the cost of his phone bill was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,400. Boss calls him on his personal phone and says, "Put the company phone down. Shut it off. Don't touch it again, unless it's to put it in a box. We are overnighting your new phone on the V network, and you will send the other phone back to us. Next time, maybe pay attention to the guy who knows how it is." Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.